Welcome to Behind the Screens, Conversations with Background Screening Pros. I'm Les Rosen, your host, and I'm excited to have you here. On this podcast, we chat with the people who know the background screening world inside and out. Executives, industry experts, legal pros, and more. We dive into their personal stories and insights to give you a real look at what's happening behind the scenes. Whether you work in the screening industry or are just curious, Behind the Screens bring you the real, unfiltered conversations from the people who make it all happen. Stick around for stories you won't hear anywhere else. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another session of Behind the Screens, the hidden world of background checks and background screening. And I am more than delighted that today we continue the tradition of having some real marvelous guests and some very accomplished people. In fact, today we have a panel that will be coming to us from across the pond from the UK and France in anticipation of the PBSA Europe and Africa Summit, which is taking place at the Barbican Center in London, May 18th and 19th. So we're going to meet some really great people who are heavily involved in the PBSA Council and are involved in that particular event that I urge everyone to go to. So it's my pleasure to tell you that today we have with us Mr. Martin Hardy, who is the past chair of the PBSA Europe Africa Council. We have Mr. Will Hogarth, and I hope I'm pronouncing all the names right, who is the current chair and events chairman. And we have Sally Ott-Lacoste, who is the future chairs. So we are sharing the chairing here. We have past, future, and present. So with that, let me introduce our guests, and we'll start with our first question to each of them. Where are you calling from? Where are you today? Where in the world are you? So let's start with Martin. Martin Hardy, tell us, where are you today? Where are you situated?
So Leslie, thanks for inviting us along to the podcast. Been really looking forward to this. A great run-up to the PBSA conference in May. I'm calling from the UK. I'm in a little place called Bedford City or town. That's a little bit north of London. So I work remotely most of the time, as does most of my team. So that's one of the perks of kind of building a digital-first business like we do with the SP Index. The office, if you like, changes quite a lot. So remote work definitely suits us as a company, and that's because we live in the online risk world. So thanks again, Les, for inviting us. I'm looking forward to participating.
Oh, that's great. I actually had lunch in Bedford last year. And,
fantastic.
I've spent overnight there, and it's you have to go. I can't remember the train station, but there's two train lines that go there, and you have to navigate that. And so anyway, welcome, Martin Hardy from Bedford. And we also have with us the current chair of the PBSA Council, Europe and Africa, and the events chair, Mr. Will Hogarth. Will, where are you calling? Where are you today? Where are we listening to you from?
So I'm the other one who's from the UK. So I'm down in Portsmouth, which is about an hour outside London, well known for its maritime history. So we've got a big naval base, lots of sailing going on. So conversation turns to boats and sailing, that's why. Yeah, so also run a company called Checkspert. So we're the youngest background check company in the UK. I think I can still say that. Only about a year old, after about 15 years of one of the larger ones. So yeah, also remote first, because there's only a few of us in the company.
Well, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about where you all come from. But Plymouth is Portsmouth is near Plymouth, right? Not that far.
No, Plymouth's not. Well, when you're talking about the States, things are close to each other, even though they're hours apart. In the UK, hours apart is like quite far. So I'd say it's quite far, but yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's down the road.
I've been to Portsmouth, I've been to Plymouth, and mainly I've been to the distillery if you're a gin drinker and you like dry London, Plymouth gin is great. So that's welcome from Plymouth. And Sally Lacoste. Sally, where are you talking to us from this morning? Or this evening, your time?
Yes, this evening. Hi, Lister. Thank you for having us. So I am calling in from Tours in France. So it's about an hour train ride from Paris. So I'm in the Castle region. It's really nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, I always think of Tours because Charles of Tours, from a little bit of European history, and you get to visit all the chateaus. You're not that far from Normandy. So, wow. Well, this is a great group. So listen, let me first start off with our opening question. Let's go into a little bit more detail as to what your current role is, what you currently do professionally, and then after that, we'll do the second round and talk about your career path. So we're going to start with Will this time. Go back a little bit more and tell us about what you're currently doing, what you like about it, and what you find interesting.
Kind of touched on some of this already, but have just started a new background checking company. So I'm CEO of that organisation, a company called Checksperts. So yeah, we're kind of just finding our feet, trying to do things a little bit differently. Super exciting. For us, we focus a little bit more on the kind of supply chain elements. So not just employee vetting, but the supply chain of companies and making sure they're vetted, especially for like secure sites. So yeah, being a startup, it's a little bit hands-on, a little bit of everything, which I love. I just love being hands-on with it. So one day I'm doing screening checks and the other day I'm doing marketing. So yeah, very varies.
A well-worn career path that many of us are familiar with. And Sally, tell us what you're currently doing.
Yeah, so I currently work at a company called Verif Diploma, and I'm the international account manager. So we are specialized in diploma verifications, and so I tend to take care of all of our international clients and institutional partners. So I really enjoy the international aspect of my role, absolutely. Well, we have a coverage all around the world, so I find that really interesting.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great. And then, Martin, what are you doing these days?
Yes, I'm the founder and executive director for, well, we actually run two brands, SP Index, Social People Index, and also the Right to Socials, which is a consumer brand. We focus quite heavily on the OSINT, open source intelligence and social media checking background. The company I set up about 15 years ago, 2010 now. Most people say, wow, the social media vetting has been around since 2010. That's correct. I can confirm. It's 15 years old. So we were the first in Europe to establish a company for social media vetting. And basically, I'm still actively involved in the business as executive director. And it really interests me how the online behaviors become part of the everyday risk decisions in the industry. And that's why I'm still in it. That's why I'm still invested so much in it. It's really shifting from this blunt tool of checking, verification into something much more thoughtful and balanced. So we've got the situation today where social media checks used to be about protecting companies, and now they're just as much about protecting candidates. It's not about what you find online, it's how you interpret it. And there's our passion, that's what we do as a business, and that's where I sit.
Well, all three of you are very busy and very hands-on in the industry. So what we'd like to talk about are it's always interesting to me to find about people's career paths, how they got from here to there. And I'd like to ask you each about your journey, where you started from and how you got to where you are today. I think this one is time to start with Sally. Sally, you seem to my ear, at least to my one good ear, to have kind of an American accent, but you're in Paris. Now you're an hour from Paris, so you're in Tours. Tell us, how did you end up there? Where did you start and how did you get to where you are now?
Yes, so I am American. I grew up in the US. I grew up in South Carolina, and I went to college at the College of Charleston, and I got a double bachelor's degree there, one in supply chain management and then the other in French and Francophone studies. And so that's what brought me to France initially, was a study abroad with that degree, and ended up loving it, ended up coming back to France, and I had a couple of internships, ended up doing a master's degree at a school here, and found a job in the background screening industry. So that's how I ended up in France. So now I'm doing my life here, living and working, and really enjoying it, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. So from Charleston, South Carolina, which is a wonderful city, now to Tours. So congratulations.
Thanks.
And if I got my order right, Martin, what was your career path? How did you know in the third grade you were going to be a background screener, or did that occur to you later?
Yeah, I think I've never met somebody yet that started life saying I'm going to be in background screening. So I'm the same. I'm actually a finance guy originally in my background. So I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, also Global Management Accreditation. So finance and accountancy is my background. I spent 6 years in brewing, first the brewing industry, Then moved to 25 years in aviation, and then about 15 years ago I was started in the background screening, and really it was the aviation sector that led me into the background screening, where, you know, I could see that the exposure that was in the airlines and the growth of social media, that combined risk, many things happening back in early 2000s in the aviation security sector. And then I put the two together, and here we are today with a social media screening company, which I fully love. And yeah, so that's my kind of background. Traveled internationally, business development in international markets. Our company is in at least 8 countries at the moment. So yeah, that's my journey.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. You've been in lots of industries. And you landed up here, and apparently you like it because you're still here. And Will, what about you? What was your path? How did you start off, and what did you do wrong? I mean, what did you do to end up in the background screening world?
So I've actually just learned something about Martin. But so I had a degree in finance and accounting. So I didn't know we shared that. Then, whilst I was finding a real job, I needed a job for some beer money, and there was a company about 30 seconds from my front door, and that was a company called Security Watchdog, which was a background checking company. I'm really nosy as a person, not because I got a big nose, of just my nature. So I just loved it. I just loved the people that were there, the culture that was there. The job was interesting. Yeah, 15 years later, I was still there, but had worked up to be operations director. So had done a mix of kind of customer-facing roles, operational roles, product roles, which made it the perfect storm that when the business was bought and there was an opportunity to leave, that started my own business. So yeah, something I always wanted to do was run my own business. It just made sense to stay in background checking.
That's great.
Your whole career
Well, the three of you certainly have interesting career paths. It's fascinating to hear. The common denominator is that all three of you could have done and can do lots of different things, and you've chosen to enter background screening and stay in background screening. Let me put this out here as a group question. What do you enjoy about working in the industry? What's your passion about being involved in background checks? And whoever wants to jump in, jump in.
I think for me, it's about how the industry is maturing. I mean, I was completely new to it in 2010. That's the first kind of time I really got involved at all. And since then, especially, again, I'm going to say it again, especially in the open source intelligence and the online space, it's advanced incredibly and still is. And now the whole industry is now talking about the latest developments of AI and online platforms, and social media vetting has become a normal vetting process for many, many organizations now, and certainly for all the background screening companies carrying them out. So it's really maturing, particularly in the specific niche I'm in. It's maturing. We're moving away from this tick box kind of exercise into genuine risk management. Like I say, particularly with social media. Social media screening is growing up, is what I like to say. And it had to, because it used to be very much about, you know, what somebody's done, black or white, you know, and now it's more about a judged, you know, representation of both the candidate and the risk to the employer. So I think it's maturing, and that's what has kind of got me hooked on the industry, the developments that are going on.
Interesting. And Sally and Will, how about you? How about you guys? What has you hooked on the industry?
I'd say super similar. So what mine said about technologies are really being like an ex-product guy. I agree. It's almost like the industry's so mature in some ways, and its processes, its ways of working, and then technology's coming along and kind of going, you can rethink this. So you still got that underlying, we have to be kind of trusted, etc. But now there's new ways to kind of establish that trust. So I find it super exciting to sound LinkedIn, watching what everyone's up to. Yeah, I think it's a really cool mix. The other thing I think I'm passionate about the industry is the people in it. It's one of the only kind of industries I've kind of come across where people actually want to help each other and support each other and work for each other. It seems to attract a certain type of individual, one that actually cares about other humans. In some industries it's a bit more cutthroat, right? Ours, we're far more collaborative.
Well, fantastic. And Sally, I see you nodding a couple times there. What's your attraction to the screening industry? What
Yeah. I'd say I definitely agree with the human aspect of what Will was saying. I think for me, I really enjoy the international aspect of the industry and the role of screening in international mobility, because I think that we have quite the role in allowing and promoting candidates to help them get a job internationally. Also, within diploma verifications, there's diploma evaluations for visas. And I think that we have quite an interesting role in helping individuals within international mobility. So I think that's a super interesting role to have. I think that's what I enjoy most about the background screening industry.
Well, that's great. And that segues into my next question. Part of the industry is PBSA. You're obviously involved with PBSA. In a moment or two, we're going to talk specifically about the upcoming conference and what to expect and why people should think about that. But let me ask you as a group again, just jump in. You're all members of the PBSA Europe Africa Council. What's been the role of PBSA in your career professionally and in terms of meeting people or developing or that sort of thing?
Should we do past, present, future?
That'd be nice.
Well, I know we're a bit late for the Christmas Carol and that story, but let's do the past, present, future. So, I mean, I'll kick in, Lester. So I'm the former chair of Europe and Africa. I think I want to touch also, Will just mentioned about the collaboration opportunities in the industry. I think this is something where the PBSA plays a big part as a central gathering point, if you like, of all the background screeners. Take you back a couple of years and shout out to Susie Thompson. She was the chair previous to me, and actually back then I remember my first PBSA conference when I first started getting involved. That was in a little place called Cranfield in just outside Bedford near me, and that conference had around about 45 attendees. Okay, so that's the kind of scale of it at that point. So that's now 2 or 3 years ago. And since then, the annual event we'll talk about shortly, I'm sure, has grown. We've now seen more and more companies joining the events. We've seen more and more people. And the last conference, which we managed to move, first of all, to Amsterdam, then to Paris in the next year. So we've gone outside the UK. That was nearly 100 attendees at that conference. So you can see it's more than doubled in the last few years in terms of its attendees, and hence the collaboration opportunities have been tremendous during that point. Why do I stay involved? Primarily because of that networking, the community, and the ability to share knowledge and bring new ideas to the table within the industry. So yeah, it's a little bit addictive from that perspective, as you probably found, Lester, being one of the founders.
That's right. Well,
and here you are still here.
Here I am. Exactly. Oh, who would have thought? And Will, Sally, how about what's the PBSA meant to your career? Martin talked about the cooperation and the sharing and getting to know people. Has that been true for you as well?
Definitely. So I'd term it community. Like for me, it's like going to the PBSA events or the calls that we have. Nowhere else can you tell jokes about GDPR and people get them and laugh, right? It just doesn't land the same within your own organisation. But when you're amongst the community, all those jokes land well. They understand your challenges. You talk about your challenges together and how are you implementing this technology. So in the UK, we've had like a big one of like a data source, government tax data source, and just being able to talk about how different people are implementing it together gives you a real sense of we're in it together. We're all trying to advance the industry together, which you wouldn't get anywhere else. Yeah, and then having a few drinks and swapping some funny stories about dodgy references you got. And you always play top trumps with like who's had the most ridiculous reference response ever. You just can do that elsewhere.
Well, Sally, do you both find it a kind of gives a place to slow down and think a little bit? Especially when these events and conferences come along. I find it's really a place where you slow down and you think about topics, and quite often regulation is lagging behind. So the PBSA is almost defining what good looks like, right? And that collaboration and slowing down and thinking about what does good look like. And
right, that's exactly what I was going to say.
I stole your spot there, Sally. Sorry.
No,
Yeah,
no
and
worries.
Sally,
No worries.
you get to follow these two gentlemen. You are the chair-elect, so when you get to sit in their laurels, you get to take over. What about you? What's been the role of PBSA in your career?
Yeah, well, definitely echo what Martin and Will have just said about community and increasing your network. But I have to say, there's been a large role in education about all the legislative changes in the global landscape of the background screening industry. Like Will was saying, is that the PBSA sometimes, well, really guides a lot of legislative initiatives and really helps us all become aware of the new changes that are going on in the industry. So it's definitely, I would say that the network aspect has been really important, as well as the educational aspect with legislative changes and changes in all, with product changes as well. So definitely big role of education as well in PBSA.
So PBSA, we alluded to it, so let's jump into it directly. You have a great event coming up, a Europe and Africa Conference, being held at the Barbican Center, May 18th and May 19th. And I guess I can say it, registration is now open. What's happening? What is all that about?
So yeah, it's our first 2-day event. So as Martin said, we had a really good response last year in Paris, and it was great. But the main feedback was people wanted more opportunity to network and discuss problems. So yeah, we're going bigger and better this year. Returning to the UK, 2-day event. Our theme for the event is human connections in a digital world. So it's all about, okay, we spent lots of time talking about technology. What can we do with it? AI comes up a lot, but we want to start moving that conversation to a little bit of where should humans still belong in all of this? So yes, we know technology can do quite a lot, but especially in background checking, where does common sense still play a part?
Everyone mentions this AI thing. I suppose afterwards I'll have to Google that and find out what that's all about. But I've heard, I keep hearing the term, but
If you wish to
anyway,
come to
I'll figure it
our
out.
summit, you'll learn quite a lot, Les. So you're more than welcome to join us.
I guess I'll have to use AI to find out what it is. But and I love the title. The subtitle is "Mind the Gap," and of course, anyone who's spent any time in London and on the tube will, you know, all you ever hear and see is "Mind the Gap," right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, mind the gap, the human connection in the digital world.
So we got some fun entertainment. I think at APAC they introduced some fun entertainment into the sessions. So we've taken some inspiration from their conference last year. We won't ruin the surprise. We'll just say that there will be entertainment as part of our conference. There'll be usual kind of legislative updates. We've got some thought leadership speakers, so some well-known authors within the HR industry are coming to do some, I'll use the word provocative conversations. We've got debates happening, some of those assisted by AI. So using AI to kind of summarize our debates as we debate. Yeah, lots. Martin, Sally, help me out.
Lots and lots, plus networking. That's the only thing you missed, yeah. Yeah.
Sally, tell us about the networking.
Well, we have got a pre-event, so it's the 17th, I believe. So we've got an event to allow people to network before the event gets started. And then we've also got another event on that Monday night. So those are dedicated events to networking. And then also throughout the conference, we've got some breaks integrated. So people will definitely have the time to get to know one another. So that's definitely an advantage of coming to the conference as well.
Yeah, and also a bit of fraud is thrown into the agenda. We got a bit of mergers and acquisitions being talked about during the conference. And also, I have to say, a little bit of social media.
Who's speaking, Martin?
Yeah,
But I take a look at this. You keep mentioning social media. I think I'm the first person to actually have written a white paper on social media about 20 years ago, none of which applies today. But
But of course, Lester, what we want to achieve, you mentioned the, mind the gap strapline there. So we want to change this memory of yours away from the idea that mind the gap represents London, and actually to mind the gap represents PBSA conference May 2026. So when the first go-to should be, that was where we went to the PBSA in 2026, mind the gap.
Mind the gap, absolutely. So let's take a second here, and I'll use my privilege of being the host to say that in my mind, I cannot imagine that anyone can present themselves as a professional background screener and offer services and not be part of PBSA Europe Africa and not go to the conference. But that's my personal prejudice. So, each of you maybe shoot out a reason if someone is thinking of going but they haven't quite decided. What's in it for them? What's a good reason they ought to be there? And we can we'll start with Sally. Why should they go there? What would you tell someone who says, it's time consuming, it's expensive, I have to travel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I wouldn't tell them that. No. No. I think, well, honestly, from my experience, you really learn a lot. I think with all the different companies that will be there there'll be representatives from Africa, from Europe, from the US, some from Asia. And I think with the people that are there, with the conferences and the interesting topics, I think that you are bound to learn some very interesting and relevant information about what's happening in the background screening world currently. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to learn. And I think that this conference puts all of the people in the same room that are decision makers and influencers in the industry all around the world. So you should be in that room.
And I think it considerably lessens the chance. I mean, in the U.S., we're worried about getting sued. In Europe, I'm not sure lawsuits are as big a concern as government regulators doing nasty things to you. And if you want to lessen your risk of that happening, you've got to go to these conferences. Will and Martin, what would be your advice to someone who is thinking about going? Why should they go?
For me, it's about it widens your lens. So you learn so much and your teams learn so much. So I was first introduced to the conferences as a team member, as an employee, and it just opens my eyes. So then when I'm thinking about things in my day-to-day job, I understand the wider industry better. So I'm then better at my job and can become more strategic to support the business. So Sally's right. There's loads of content for business leaders, business owners, but for your teams to come as well and have their minds open to the wider industry, meet other people in the industry, I think it's invaluable. You can't buy that kind of competitive advantage.
And that's a great point. Not only should the executive team or someone from the executive team go, and certainly someone from compliance, but team members benefit as well. I mean, then you have a better educated team and you're just better organization. And Martin, as the past chair and having been involved in this so deeply, what would be your best advice for someone who's considering going?
Yeah, come for the conversation. Conversations are the most important thing, right? So I think there's a saying, right? Is the best ideas usually come after the slides are finished. So come have a conversation with your peers in the industry, especially those where people admit that they're not prepared to admit what's not working yet. So that conversation starts the opening and starts new ideas on how things can be done. The industry, might be worth just mentioning the typical demographic of the conference. We see all kinds of different demographics coming along to the conference. So, senior members, senior CEOs, business owners, they're coming along to the conference. They're looking for all sorts of conversations, whether it be acquisitions, whether it be, new markets to enter into. We get a lot of, let's say, the other end of the spectrum, which is those who are new to the industry, coming to learn, working for background screening companies. They're just coming to build their skill set and learn more about the background checking industry. And then there's a whole bunch of everything between. Sally's touched on the educational part. So you'll get compliance officers and you get, people focused on the legal and compliance, as well as those in the operations and processing. Yeah. And then mixed up in that, some IT guys come along. They mash it all up and put it all together again. So the conversation brings it all together.
That's right. And when the IT people come, then they actually go, oh, that's what you're trying to do. Why didn't you tell me? All right. Well, it's going to be fun. So let's jump ahead. And one final question about the conference. And I should mention that I just saw online here that it's always good that there are sponsors of the conference. So this year it looks like it's iCover, Ferretly, Confer, and Omni data retrieval are the ones that are online right now. Maybe there'll be more later. So obviously, I'm sure you're grateful to the sponsors as well. And if you haven't sponsored, you should, because where else can you get so many background screeners in the same place? That's what one of the advantages of PBSA and all the councils is if you're a sponsor or a vendor to the industry, you're able to get your message out. So what are you each hoping to achieve when it's over? What are you all hoping to go away with? Maybe now, I guess it's Martin's. We'll go reverse order. Martin, Will, and then Sally. Martin, at the end of it, what do you hope to have happened, or personally or professionally?
Yeah, so hopefully everything goes smoothly. I also want to give a shout out to the sponsors, Lester. Not to underplay this, but the sponsors are critical for these events. They help us put on a good show, and they help us put a good agenda together, and they drive the energy. So I think, a big shout out to the sponsors. What do I want to come away with from this conference, and what I would hope everybody else comes away with is new friends, new connections, new business ideas, new markets to explore. It is a Europe and Africa conference, so there will be a mix of across Europe and Africa in terms of topics and discussion. So any companies interested in broadening their kind of geographical footprint, then this is a great conference. And London, of course, is a perfect location in the center of all of that, Africa, Europe regions. So it's a perfect location, and hopefully, no matter which part of the demographic you are, you'll have something to take away from this conference.
Oh, fantastic! And Will, what about you? What are you hoping to take away, and what are you hoping to see and take out of it?
So I get similar, which will be no surprise. For me, it's more about. So I tell myself every event I go to, make one new friend or person. So yeah, I hope to make a new friend.
Hey everyone, Will needs a friend. So
thank you.
And I guess if they buy you a pint, they could be your friend. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, other than that, I'm just going to echo what Martin said. Really, is just to catch up with old friends, people that you've known for a few years, but you don't really speak to in day to day because they're the competition, I guess. But catching up with those guys and girls is the main thing. Yeah. Me.
That's great. And Sally, this whole thing is yours next year. What do you hope to walk away with?
Well, I think lots of momentum is the goal. Yeah, like Martin was saying, each year it's grown. And so I hope that everything goes smoothly and that everyone has great ideas and great connections so that they're excited about the following year and that the momentum continues. So I definitely hope that that's an outcome. And for me personally, similarly to what Martin and Will have said, of course, reconnecting with the PBSA community. I've been for the past 3 or 4 years now, and so you really get to meet some great people. So I'm looking forward to seeing familiar faces, and yeah, hope to meet some new people as well and have some new ideas.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I appreciate that, and I guess registration's open. And again, I'll take advantage of my editorial prowess as the host to say, I just don't know how you can be a background screener and not be involved in PBSA and with a straight face represent yourself as a professional if you don't go to the conferences that represent your area. So good luck. I wish I was there. It'll be a great conference. Let's segue now away from the conference into, we want to find out more about our three guests, about them personally. And in order to keep our time within the limit here, we're going to do a couple speed rounds, and then we'll get to some of the fun stuff, what you guys do when you're not involved in background screening. It's always really fascinating to me to talk to people in the industry and find out who your mentors were, or people who are influencers, or people you'd like to give shout outs to. I can't remember where we are. Sally, we'll start with you. Anyone you want to shout out to as a mentor or an influencer? Go ahead. Now's your time.
Well, mentors. I have to say a couple of professors actually come to mind. I had some really inspiring French professors that encouraged me to take the leap and to live abroad and to challenge myself in a different language and to open myself to new cultures. And they continue to follow up with me today. So yeah, definitely a couple of great professors that still invest in my career and in me as a person. So I'm grateful to have them in my life. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And going on with the speed round, we'll do Will, then Martin.
So mine would be Susie Thompson. So having worked in her business for 15 years, I think she showed me what a good leader looks like, and I always wanted to be more like her. Not just from a ideas point of view, but for how she treated people and helped them to grow and develop. I wouldn't be here without her, so she would be my mentor. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Susie Thompson was a fantastic guest, and she next year takes over as the first non-North American chair of PBSA on the international board. So my congratulations to Susie, and she's going to do a fabulous job. And Martin, what about you? Anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I think like the others, I mean, it's more about a couple of people rather than their titles, etc. So not necessarily background screening, but certainly when I left university, I had a massively important mentor in my first ever job, proper job. And she was a beautiful New Zealand woman who dragged me out of student life into employability. And I think that change in my life was fantastic. It set off my career and, made me the success I am today, really. And along the way, just one other call out. Of course, Susie in the background screening influences many people. She's a big influencer. Susie's definitely the one that introduced me to PBSA. So well done, Susie, for convincing me it was a good idea to get involved in the PBSA. She was right. So mostly my colleagues along the way, I always appreciate all of my team and all my staff in the company because they make both my success as well as the company's success. So big shout out to my team.
Oh, that's fantastic. And again, another speed round question. It's always a fascinating question to me. Take a moment, think about it. And so really quick, we'll just go through the list. Each of you just share a lesson that you learned in background screening or in business or in life that you'd like to convey to our mass listening audience. Sally, we'll start with you.
Well, I have to say, I'm still pretty early on in my career, but I've learned a lot already. I've learned a lot of lessons. I think, to me, taking the time to be human, approachable, and genuinely listen to people and to your team members and your clients builds trust. And I think that trust is ultimately what drives business growth, what creates great partnerships. So I think that, I've really learned that being, turning to the more human, approachable side of things in business is really helpful and is a positive thing in the business world. I think that's definitely a lesson that I've learned.
Fantastic. And going in order on my screen, Will?
Mine would be to always be honest. So those that know me will say I'm too honest, but especially when it comes to clients, I think being open, if you've either made a mistake or done something wrong, talking to them about it and working with them to overcome it was something I learned early on, and the idea baffled me when I learned. I was like, what do you mean be honest to clients? That you try and hide a problem, right? So I learned that lesson quickly because you always get caught out. So just learning to trust people that they will support you if you hold your hands up and you can work together to solve a problem, I'd say.
Okay, well, to use a word I hear a lot when I visit the UK, brilliant. And Martin, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, lessons learned from my perspective. Let's focus on the background screening industry. So 15 years in social media vetting, open source intelligence vetting. And what I've learned is context is everything and becoming more so now than it's ever been. So, online content without context, that can be really misleading and can have quite severe consequences both for the employer and for the candidates, both roles. So what I've learned is that information is cheap, but judgment isn't cheap, and it's worth gold. So.
That's really interesting. I've done a lot of interviews. That's the first time. I mean, it's such an important point. That's the first time it's really come up and stated so clearly that it's all about context and perspective and understanding where something fits into the big picture. So I appreciate that. And we do want to get to and spend more time on the questions about life beyond screening, but one more speed round question. A proud moment, either, associated with background screening or just in general, just something you'd like to share, something that, I'm sure you've had lots of successes and proud moments, but what kind of bubbles up on top that's something that brings a smile to your face?
Yeah, so I think I can pick something out straight away. So really proud to have been given the opportunity to be council lead for Europe and Africa with the PBSA. It sounds a bit cheesy online, though we can't find anything better in my life to pinpoint, but Actually, it was a really pleasing moment to have been given the chairship and also then to have run that its course, and especially to the Paris event last year where, we had a really good, successful conference, and to drive, that energy through my chairship was a really proud moment, I think, for that. And I'm also proud to hand over to Will.
Fantastic. Will, how about you?
Well, so I was going to say similar. For me, being the chair of PBSA was like people kind of trust me because I just started my business as well. So I was like, I'm not part of this big organisation anymore. I'm kind of on my own. And then people still trust me enough to let me look after something for a year. So that was a big moment. My other would be starting my business. My first client, and I know you just thought about this, came from PBSA. It was someone I'd met at PBSA US, the big global conference. It was just chance, and they saw I'd started a business and reached out to help them with some UK checks. So actually, I've got PBSA to thank for the success of my business. You could argue. So yeah, that'd be the other one. Yeah.
Yet another reason to get involved with PBSA. And Sally, how about you? A moment that stands out in your mind that you'd like to share?
Well, I guess I can join in and say proud of being a part of PBSA and to have a leadership role in the organization early on in my career. I think something totally unrelated to the background screening industry, I think a proud moment for me was getting my master's degree in business that was totally in French. And that was a proud moment.
Right.
Doing finance and business law in French, it was not easy, but I got to the other side, so I think that was definitely a proud moment for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, to have that language facility faculty, that's really fantastic. So we're going to move off of background screening, and because I have heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true or not, but there is life outside of background screening. And right, and it's always fun to find out about people and what they do beyond screening. So we'll start with Will on this, to start with someone new. And just looking back, what are your hobbies and interests outside of work? What do you like to do? What do you do for fun when you're not concerned about a GDPR or records or whatever it is that's happening now in the background screening world? Will, we'll start with you, buddy. What do you do?
It's not that exciting, so it kind of matches my chosen profession. But so I'm super into like self-development and psychology. So like learning how the brain works. I just can't get enough of it. So I just sit on YouTube and watch these therapists talk about how everything works. Yeah, Sally's surprised. So that's one of them. And then I'm learning to sail as well. So I've got a goal to retire early and to around the world. So I should probably learn to sail. So I've just bought a little dinghy to start learning in. I'm in the right place in the country. Got the sailing, which is really famous for it. Yeah.
So you're going to sail around the world as soon as you learn how to sail. That's great.
Yeah.
All right.
I've got kids that need to grow up first, and I've got a business to run. When that's over. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. There you go.
Well, I really love music. Music is definitely a part of my life when I'm listening to music or going to concerts. Play the flute, but not super active lately, but I love music. It's a part of my everyday for sure. But into more activities, I play tennis. I like to run, getting into Pilates. So love to exercise. Definitely helpful after a long day of work.
All right, there you go. So is it mat Pilates, or do you use the full machine?
The reformer, yeah. I've been,
the
been using
reformer.
the reformer,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so
It's
you're a
challenging, yeah.
masochist at heart. Okay, all right. I think I would probably break one of those machines, but well, that's fantastic. And what about you when you're not doing all the things you're doing in aviation and background screening and social media?
Yeah, I mean,
What do you do when you
aviation
leave the office?
Aviation is a good segue. So I'm a bit of a traveler. I've probably been to more than 70 countries over my time traveling. So aviation took me through many, many countries across 25 years. So travel is a big plus for me. And also, I'm a bit of a speed freak. I used to ride motorbikes, can't anymore because I had too many disasters on them. So I stopped. It's about the risk balance. We're talking about risk, right? So it's this risk-reward balance, I love to jump out of an aircraft as well. I love parachuting, etc. But Honestly, it's too risky these days. So
So how many perfectly good aircraft have you jumped out of before the aircraft had the chance to land on its own?
oh, many. So I've done a few, so that's good. But actually, that just again deliberately switching off from screens. There's one thing I don't get myself involved with is digital behavior. So I'm not on screens off my normal work day. So I'm probably spend less time on social media than most people in the industry, even though my business is focused on social media.
Oh, all right.
So
Well,
I know the risks.
Well, before we conclude, we have a game we play. If you've seen previous episodes, we play a game of fun facts. And fun facts is where I'm going to ask you to voluntarily, and I've researched all of you, so if you don't reveal something interesting, I will. Well, not really. I'm just sort of a threat. But what is a fun fact that people don't know or suspect about you that, if known, you will be mercilessly teased at the next conference, or people will say, "You're kidding, really?" All right. So who wants to start off and share a fun fact that heretofore has been hidden and possibly unknown to most of the world? Who wants to be
wow.
the brave person and
I feel like we've played
raise
this.
their
My
hand?
answer was good. I don't know if I could change my answer now with the explanation.
Sally, give us both answers. All right. Let's start with you.
Okay, I've only got one. And it's not maybe as exciting as you were asking, but I really like to do Lindy Hop, the dance. The
West Coast or East Coast or
East Coast. Yeah.
East Coast? Okay.
Yeah, love the Lindy Hop.
Okay. Wow. And you have an East Coast Lindy Hop partner who can do all the moves and
I do, and he's in Charleston, so we don't get to practice very often anymore, but
all right. I took a swing class with my wife, and she ended up abandoning me and dancing with the instructor because he knew what he was doing and did not have two left feet. So, so that's been my exposure to that. Okay, we have a East Coast swing Lindy Hopper with us. Will, what about you? What's something that no one would suspect about you? Come on,
Yeah,
you
everyone.
give us the goods.
Good, but my party trick is I can hum and whistle at the same time, which not many people seem to be able to do. But I can hum and
give
whistle.
it a go. Show us.
Well, I can't do it, but I'm smiling. That's the problem. It sounds like a clanger. Do you know clanger?
Oh, okay.
Did I interrupt you? You want to do a full concerto, or are you good?
No, I'm good, thank you. I'll do the tune. Sally can do the dance, and then mine is about to do.
Wow. So you can sing and hum while Sally's dancing. All right. And is this a talent that you can display with or without a pint? You can do it on command. I take it.
Who, me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just about.
All right. And Martin, what about you? What's other than jumping out of airplanes, which I personally found astounding? What do you do that's wild and crazy that people don't suspect?
I feel I have to complete the ensemble of musical talent. So I've changed my kind of thought on this. So I'm actually a former brass band member, and I play the cornet. And a little secret, I used to go busking around the pubs at 14 years old with my friends, playing the cornet and playing Christmas carols for money.
Oh,
All right.
And is cornet is the English word for trumpet? Because a cornet is kind of
a different instrument.
Typically a smaller trumpet.
It's a slightly small. It's like a bit like a trumpet, similar key instrument, but a bit smaller.
But it's a B flat instrument, but it's just a little bit smaller. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have quite the talented group here. This is really fun. Well, we're approaching the end of the hour, so we have one last question, and I'll start with whoever wants to start. We talked about the fact you talked about mentors. This is your opportunity to mentor other people who might be listening. What is your advice to someone who is either thinking of getting into the industry, or perhaps they're already in it? Maybe they're not in management. Maybe they're a verifier or a criminal record researcher, or maybe they're been in it for a few years. What's your advice for how to succeed and prosper in the industry and advance and become more knowledgeable, or whatever it is their goal is? What would you suggest they do?
I'd say to do research and ask questions. So I think what helped me a lot was when there was a standard or an industry, you'd go research it and figure out what was underneath. So not just, here are the checks we need, but why.
Right.
And that helped me no end when I'm talking to clients and I can quote the legislation that they need to adhere to. It just really helps. So just go above and beyond in terms of your learning. And
That's great advice. Just don't do things by rote, but understand why it's being done.
yeah.
Sometimes we do things just because it's always been done that way. There's no good reason for it anymore. At one time there may have been, but now you just do it because you do it. Right.
You
So
kind
that's
of
great
took mine,
advice.
Will. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to say, to bounce off and to add on to what Will said, was to stay curious. I think asking questions, doing research is a key part of learning about this industry, understanding about it, whether you're in sales, operations, or upper management. I think it's important to understand the foundations of, the checks that you're doing, the needs of candidates and clients, and just staying curious about it all, about the whole ecosystem involved.
I appreciate that. And Martin, as you're the, if I can say it, kind of the senior member of the group, as the past chair, all right.
Senior. Okay,
What-
I thought
what
you
would
were
you-
the senior last time, but there you go.
I'm beyond senior. I'm an ancient retired dinosaur. All right.
Well, thank you
So-
for the title. Thank you for the title. So I would say learn the tools in the industry. Learn the tools, but honestly understand the responsibility and take it seriously. The background screening industry is there for a really serious purpose to make sure companies and organizations are protected, but also candidates are treated fairly. There's a lot of legislation around, and if I look at the social media and OSINT kind of open source vetting, they're not just data sources, they're actual reflections of people online. And it's important that coming into the industry, and if you're in particularly my niche, then get the balance right. And if you get the balance right, you'll do well in the profession. So screen people like you'd want to be screened yourself, I always say, and treat screening as risk management, not risk hunting. And those are two takeaways for people.
Well, those are great takeaways.
Wow, great
So
advice.
Great
Each
advice.
coin's
So screen
nice.
you'd want to be screened, and it's all good advice. So this has been a great group. We've covered a lot of material, but just as a catch-all, in case you're sitting there thinking, gosh, there's something I wanted to mention, I didn't have a chance. The final question always is the last word. And if there's anything that you want to add or say, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, the screening is here to stay, especially social media screening is now here to stay. How we do it will define our industry. So what I would say is come to the 2026 London Summit. It's all about moving forward together as a community, responsibly together, setting the tone for the next phase of screening in Europe, Africa, and beyond. And I'll drop the mic with the internet doesn't forget, but good screening knows when to let go. So remember that.
All right, there you go. I appreciate that. All right. And Will, as the current chair, as the current head honcho of PBSA Europe Africa, anything else you want to add before we sign off? Floor is yours.
I don't know how to follow Martin.
I know, goodness.
Who does, right?
I'd say, if in doubt, come along to the summit in London. It's going to be bigger. We've got 2 days planned. It's going to be better than mine, of course, because we're slightly competitive. So, just look forward to seeing you there. And if you buy me a pint, I'll call you my friend.
All right. There you go. There you go. A friend for a pint program.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Will Hogarth. All right. All right. And before we conclude, Sally, as the future chair of this fine group, anything else you want to add, or any final thoughts to add to the discussion?
Well, just hope to see everybody this May in London, and stay tuned for maybe an announcement about 2027.
Okay, well, you can always look forward to 2027. So, folks, it's been a great panel. Let me extend my appreciation to Martin Hardy, who's the past chair of PBSA Europe Africa and a veteran of the industry. Will Hogarth, who is the current chair, also a veteran, and Sally Ott-Lacoste, the current chair, who is rapidly becoming a veteran. And it's been a pleasure having you. On behalf of our podcast sponsor, which is the Premium Employment Directory and our good friend Barry Nixon. It has been truly a pleasure hosting all of you, and I hope that you have a fantastically successful conference at the Barbican in London on May 18th and 19th. So congratulations and thanks for being here, and appreciate
Fantastic.
it.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you for having
see
us,
you
Lester.
soon. Thanks, everybody. All right, that was yet another wonderful conversation with a background screening pro. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update. And hey, if you got a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It really helps get the word out. For more info or to catch up on past episodes, or to make suggestions or to suggest possible future guests, head over to our website. Once again, this is your host, Les Rosen, and it's been a pleasure to bring you another episode. See you on the next episode. Thanks.